let's stay with the question of oil and what's happening there. Richard Jones is the Deputy Executive Director of the IEA, and he joins us now live from Paris. Mr. Jones, the Libyan crisis or conflict has been going for several months. We have an oil price that at one particular point did reach 125 back at the beginning of April. So why now, when the price was already slowly coming down?
Well, first of all, we are looking at the oil market in terms of the balance of supply and demand, not particularly at price. We've been watching the market very carefully. I mean, we watched it all the time, but particularly carefully since the Libyan disruption began in February. And over time, we've seen that our stocks have come down more and more. Basically, over 130 million barrels has been lost from the market since this disruption began. And as we're going into the summer season, where we expect naturally demand would increase, we believe that there's a potential for a serious disruption of the market. And according to our rules, we can act on the basis of a potential for disruption of the market.
So you would accept, I mean, the cynics would perhaps say it's political, but you are basically saying that the US driving season, the European holiday season, the demand for oil does increase, and it is politically a good thing to have oil, petrol and gasoline at a lower price. I think we can agree on that.
Well, I'll leave political judgments to the politicians. I'm an oil person, and I look at the market, and I want to make sure it's well supplied. And we have a lack of supply in the market. Now, of course, after the OPEC meeting, Saudi Arabia made some very welcome statements. We're not trying to compete with Saudi Arabia with this release. In fact, we're trying to complement them. But we believe that as sincere as the Saudis are to increase their production, it will take them some time to ramp up. There will also be a question of quality differentials. Remember, Libyan crude is light and sweet. Most Saudi crude is a little bit heavier and sour. And so we thought that because of the quality difference, because of the time it would take the Saudis to ramp up, that we could step in and bridge until they are successful in doing that.
So, but I've got the numbers here. OPEC does have quite a bit of spare capacity. The quota was maintained. How far is IEA's decision, though, in some ways a thumbing of the nose at, and a slight annoyance at OPEC's decision not to respond at their last meeting?
No, that's at all. I mean, we have pretty good relations with OPEC these days. We recognize our respective roles. We have a dialogue with OPEC. Our executive director speaks regularly with the OPEC Secretary General. So it's not something from the playground. This is serious business. We're concerned with the health of our economies.
And will you go more than 30 days if necessary? Got to ask you that question.
Well, you have to understand that this approval came under a simplified procedure that we adopted back in 2000. It's the same procedure that was used at the time of the Katrina disruption. And under that disruption, the initial release is always for 30 days. And then we review it. We're basically doing it on a kind of accelerated procedure and, basically working with emails. Rather than face-to-face meetings. And so we'll review it over the course of the month, and we'll see in a month's time if people judge that it's been sufficient or not. It could be continued. There could be a new decision made, or we could decide to end it. It's really up to the member countries, depending on what happens in the market between now and then. It's impossible for me to speculate.
Richard Jones, many thanks for coming in and talking to us. We very much appreciate it, as always, and good to see you. Thank you for joining us.